Right, so that's obviously a 308 sitting there, and we've got a lot to learn about what exactly has been done to that 308. There's a turbo 350 sitting behind it. We've got some oil filters remoted over here. All the brake assembly for the front disc brakes has been taken over to a side here. They've just moved things around basically, and in the fact that the direction that they sit. And master cylinder is not standard. I think that's come off a Tirana from memory. I'm guessing a little bit, but we've got a lot of cleanup to do. Obviously, this car has sat around for 30 years, and you'll get a bit of a sensation of that as you start to see just the fact that it's needing a really good clean. Just come over from Adelaide, so we've got our work cut out for us. Last registered a little while ago, but we're going to need to send a fair bit in for rechroming. Some of it's oxidised a bit, but it's not tragic. We're just having a little bit of a play with the air filter covers and bits, and just touching up just little areas. But dragways will need repolishing. They've had a long life of sitting around. Rubbers and seals and things actually are very good. Must be honest, they're actually very good. A little bit dark in there, I'm sorry. But Recaro seats, and really a good choice of Recaros for this. He's complemented the blue very well. I might actually just grab that light because quite seriously, you're not seeing much in there, I don't think. And if I come in from the other side, I can show you a couple of features which I thought were quite nifty. Oh, sorry about moving around with the camera so much. Okay, so as you can see, when we went to pull up the bonnet, the cable snapped, so we had to break into the front section there. Now, some of the positives. X2 dash, and certainly nice. They've obviously followed the colour through inside on the car as well. Once again, these Recaros, really nice. Actually, I've sat in them and they're a beautiful seat. These wouldn't even like to sort of guess back in the 80s just what people paid for those. The mandatory fire extinguisher. But in the back, and I'm not doing this very well here, this is the original Holden HR rear seat, which they've matched to the Recaros, which sort of I think has been a really good idea, and keeping and actually seatbelts have been upgraded too. Just having a look there. They've actually done full retractable seatbelts in there, which is sort of handy for when we've got to start passing. I think we'll have to go back into engineering for a couple of things for this. We've got, close it over, we've got, just out of interest, certainly some very good engineering paperwork. And this is actually the guy, we couldn't believe it when we saw the name on it, is the Knapp, KE Knapp. But this is basically what they've had approved. So they've got a 5-litre V8 engine and a turbo 350 auto trans. Used a LHLX Tirana rack and pinion, forward 9-inch rear end, and rear axle assembly's been fitted. Recaro bucket seats have been fitted for the driver and front passenger, and they've got sort of basically quite a few notes that are more about exactly the specifics of the engine and how it is that's all been done. The bit that I want to show you in a second, the cutouts that have been made through to the inner mudguard, sort of that was I'm sure an engineering nightmare in some respects, because they can get really annoyed. They make the point the transmission's used in a Chevy Corvette, and it goes through a few different reasons why that choice was made. Goes in the driveline, and there was a lot of mods that were made on this that have been in relation to everything from braking to handling, and obviously, as you can see here, Castlemaine rod shop that just about every V8 HR I've ever had, there's a mention of them for their kits. But there's quite a bit more done that you'll notice in these notes than just the Castlemaine stuff. When we get it up on the hoist, we'll be able to show you some bits and pieces. But they're just copies of and this is the museum that it was in for, 20 of the 30 years. 10 years in Bendigo, then Echuca for 20 years. And there's a few shots of just where it all sort of started. There's a shot of Colin there, which some of you have already seen. And it's amazing when you look at some of these shots, where things start. And certainly this shot here is a bit of a doozy. So that car there is this car here, which is amazing, really. But certainly got there. This shot was used on a couple of promos we did recently. It was a nice shot. Once again, when things sparkled a bit more, they're a little bit dull at the moment in the condition it's in right now. But note it's missing now. It's missing the front little Holden emblem. I need to get sorted out for the grill, but that's no big deal. We'll get that sorted. And there's Colin there. Just before they painted the car. So good to see a little bit of the previous owner's photos and work. We had to break into the back boot. That was a little bit of fun. Luckily, I'm skilled at picking these locks, and I've got a lockpick kit, and we got there in the end. Battery in the boot. We've just put a battery in just for a second, just to get. We have no intention of starting it at the moment. This was just a matter of just seeing what lights up and what doesn't. And it's all sort of going to, little bits and pieces we'll have to do. What we were very interested in, hang on, with HR Holdens, there's only one thing you're interested in, and that is rust. So, you sort of go through and start having a look at just how it is. And look, I've got to be honest with you, it's actually very good. Hang on, if I just move that. Little bit of sign of just, getting a little bit sort of nasty down there, but not nasty, that we can sort very, very easily. But overall, I've seen these rears with holes in them everywhere. So this is why we've pulled the carpets up and basically wanted to have a good look. Look, it's a car that's been sitting around for a very long time. So we've got our work cut out for us, but it's got some potential that I think will be worth, having a bit of a play. Sorry, it's all under torch at the moment. Just the light. I'm under the hoist at the moment with the Porsche up the top, and it's blocking a lot of the lights from the fluoros. But that's what we've got to work with. This is really just stage one. This will be off the road a lot longer than I thought. Look, I'm just going to be honest here. It's not quite where I thought it would be, and that's okay. That's I've just got a few things that will mean we'll probably pull the car down once again, one more time. There's a couple of waivers in the body that I can't sort of take it to any sort of swap meet or show or anything at this stage. But it's also something that it's look, I haven't had it on the hoist yet, but I think once I get on the hoist, you'll start to realise where a lot of the potential of this car, sort of emanates from. There's got a lot of typical little HR things which we know sort of how to fix. Then there's a few little dodgy things which we're going to have to think around. Look, we haven't even taken the first layer of dust off yet. So underneath this is some paint. But my feeling is we'll probably repaint. There's just a few things I'm seeing that, I'll give you an example of that. It's a bit hard with the light. Hang on, if I just go on this side panel. It's just grease on there. But some of the lines on the car just need a little bit of reworking. They're not shocking, don't get me wrong, but they're not 100% either. And hopefully we don't have to go to full respray. But if we do, we do. It is one of those things. But I was just trying to pick up. There was a problem that was a little bit more obvious, and I'm going around in circles here, not finding it. It was in one of the doors. Well, hang on. Let me just kick this one shut. It's so obvious that now I'm having trouble finding it. But it was a riffle in one of the doors, which we're going to need to sort of redo that one. But the paint job has been done on this. Look, I'm just going to be honest. It's average. It's not great. It's surprising, that it spent so much time in the Holden Motor Museum. But, look, when I get all this crud off it from being transported, etc., we may find that it's a little bit nicer than, I hate doing this, but, just, yeah, it's not. There's some depth to that colour there, but we really need to get this cleaned off and get a bit of a look at it. So more updates on this one as we go along. A lot of parts going back in for re-chroming. It's just time. I love chrome, don't get me wrong, but I also hate chrome that's starting to look a little bit sort of tatty. So, yeah. What they were mentioning in the notes before, I think is unbelievable. This custom set of extractors that have gone onto this V8, look at how they come through, and they're really done professionally. It's... and the fact that they've got this engineered in is, makes our life a lot easier when it comes to getting this thing on the road. At the moment, by the way, just to show you why you don't start cars without checking things. And that's why you don't start cars without checking things. You get a lot of noise, bad noise. Actually, and behind that, you can see how they've done the universal joint junctions for the LH rack and pinion steering too. It's quite good, and can't possibly hurt a HR's turning circle, that's for sure. They're really brilliant. But and we'll sort of, as you can see on these, time to re-chrome these. They're a little bit past polishing at this point. Sometimes you can get them looking a bit better. I mean, things like that will chrome up and just get them finished off. We may have to pull the motor one more time just to maybe spruce up the engine bay. The engine bay is not bad. It's a typical 1980s job, that's been done so many years ago, and it's going to have some marks and little things in it. So when we get, through cleaning it all up, maybe, we'll get a bit of a surprise. What you do tend to find is when they've been sitting around a long time, things tend to bubble a little bit. Now you can polish some of those bubbles out sometimes. Things tend to, once again, condensation. This has been chromed, but as you can tell, even if I put a rag on it and try and, clean that up a little bit, it's still going to be average because it's become a bit pitted, in places there. But we'll see. We'll buff it up. Sometimes you get a surprise. And all these that are normally supposed to be a lovely highlight, of course, time has just got the better of them. So, your chrome guy gets a whole lot of bits and pieces chucked at him. All right, this is the first video on probably quite a few on this V8 Turbo 350 9-inch rear HR Holden, and I'm if you ask me how do I feel like we've got a fair bit of work to do. This is not the put it in the shed, wash it, and you're done. I can see another probably 20-25 grand to get it to where we probably want it to be, but anyone who knows me well enough knows I'll probably do it. Unless I get really determined on something else. But at the moment, this one has a bit more meaning in relation to, trying to actually get the thing going and looking the part, especially for some of the reasons that we'd like to do it. Okay, that's it. I'm sorry it's a bit dark in here, but we'll get this out cleaned up and in the sunlight in the next few days and give you a better look. I guarantee you this paint will look a lot better when we get all the crud off it. But, why show you something, that's perfect? Why not show you what happens after, 30 years of sitting around? And we'll be honest too in the fact that we want to try and portray, what the problems are when a car sits for that long. I mean, do we have, ridges around the bores? Do we have, issues? We're just debating at the moment whether we might pull the heads. We're going to float a bit of oil through it first, just sort of see how it's sounding, a bit of water and fluids. It's got no brakes at the moment. Brake fluid is out, of course. So it was a bit of fun getting off the truck. But for those that don't know it, this car survived a massive car accident on the highway coming back. It was right on the end of the back of a big, huge truck. And it was not damaged in any way, but the truck was totally written off. There's nothing left of the truck. So we'll get some photos of that to you at some stage soon. to give you a bit of an idea just how lucky this car was, because we think this car's got a really special purpose, and the fact that it just keeps on staying alive, even though, the Hume highway, sorry, it wasn't the Hume, it was another one of the highways, sorry, he was on. I'll get that sorted out, I can't remember now. But suffice to say, the poor guy, his truck's an absolute write-off, and he was in really good spirits today, to be fair, when he dropped this off. And just to explain, that meant he had to get his wife to grab his car trailer, his car, come to the truck, which is hours away from Newcastle, and then to basically meet up, get this loaded on, which has got no brakes, no nothing. So you basically, it's a pain of a job, and then get it to us. And you know what? I can't say anything more highly about DRM Logistics. If you live in Newcastle and you need a car moved, Pete and the boys at DRM Logistics, go talk to them seriously, because, by the way, the accident wasn't his fault. It was a moron that took out his truck. But the skill that his drivers have got to still get us a car here, not only in one piece, but to get it here within, 24 hours of the accident, less, probably 18 hours of the accident, just shows you their commitment to customers is just huge. I was thinking we'd probably see the car in about a week or so, because logically there wasn't easy ways to move things around. But anyway, so DRM Logistics, and a big sing out to Scotty VK2AUS, who arranged all that as well, mate. Really appreciate it. All right, well, you've got a bit of a first view. This is the view that I got. So any comments? If you hate it, you're allowed to say that. If you love it, you're allowed to say that. If you've got any suggestions, we definitely want to hear that, because we've got a big job on our hands here. So appreciate any thoughts. Sorry, this one's a little bit off radio for once. We'll put a CB radio in it just so that everybody's happy at some stage. I don't know where you'd mount one of these things. I can't remember. I think there's a fair bit of under dash room. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no problems. Oh, yeah, I had to remember how to use a B&M shifter, by the way. That was interesting earlier. All right. Okay, all the best to you. Thanks very much for having a look at the initial video on this interesting, but I think will be a really fun project. If you're trying to find me at any time, I'll be the guy with no money, but a really nice looking HR Holden by the time it's finished. So all the best. Cheers.